But sort of in summation, listen, I don't want to be president of the library board for forever, right? This would be a position where I would do my level best to right the ship of the Shore Public Library in the next 8 months in the hope of handing this off to someone else. My hope is to make these committees as strong as humanly possible, to work with other members of the board to determine what committees they want to sit on and what their strengths are and what we really need to do to, again, right the ship in the next 8 months. So, I am happy to serve. I'm honored to be nominated. Um, and if elected, I would look forward to working with each and every one of you in a very similar capacity, in a way where we do this as a team, not as a leader and six other members. So that's
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you. We need a motion to either reopen nominations or to vote.
I move to vote on the current nominees. I'm not sure how to do that, but that's my motion.
Sure, motion. All right, we have a second.
I'll second.
All right. I think we're gonna go do a roll call vote since we have two nominations, and just say John or Eric. We'll start with Eric.
I'll vote for Eric.
Okay. We'll go to Elvira.
I vote for John.
Okay. Wes.
I think both would be excellent, but I'll vote for Eric.
Okay. Lori.
Eric.
Okay. Kara.
John.
All right, and John has the tie-breaking vote, and the tying vote. I will vote. I just think it's so important that we be strong and independent. I have to vote for myself. So it's a tie, 3-3. From here, we can go back into open nominations. We can do it, or we could do a revote. I'll just say, this is not Eric. I think you'd be a great president. You have the acumen for it. I think you have the temperament for it. I agree with everything you said. I think we have to right the ship and we have to do it quickly. I so strongly feel that coming from a village board member is really problematic. And I want your voice, and I want you to be working with us on this board. And so if president, I would work very closely with you. I've already had several meetings with the village in the 2 weeks I've done this. And we were able to accomplish a lot, which we'll go into later in agenda items. But I just so strongly would encourage you to withdraw your nomination.
I appreciate the kind words. I will not be withdrawing my nomination.
Should we should we defer this item until the next meeting? I mean, 3-3. Maybe we talk a little further at the next meeting. I unfortunately I have a hard stop at 7, so I'm thinking of that too. But is this something
You make a vote tonight, don't we?
Yeah, in our bylaws, it says we have to do the votes tonight. I suppose we could move to table this, but I think that would be in direct violation of the bylaws.
I would agree with that.
I mean, wouldn't John just continue to act as interim president? It's not like we don't have a president. We currently have a president.
You.
Correct. I'm comfortable with deferring this and having John remain as interim president. I have no problem with that.
I mean.
I move to table.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion to table the vote because of the tie on president for until next meeting. We got a second. All, so all in favor of tabling this conversation until next meeting? Might have to do a roll call vote. So Lori,
Aye.
Elvira,
I have a question. I don't know when is the moment. What is the advantage of tabling this?
say that again.
What is the advantage of putting this item on table until next meeting? Why do we need to do that? What is the advantage?
You might appoint another board member who could break the tie. I
Okay.
don't have enough reason to table a vote.
Okay.
Also, if we're we could be 3-3 on a lot of things tonight, and we're already 45 minutes into the agenda.
How do you think we're gonna be 3-3 on a lot of things tonight?
I have not. Well, there's 6 of us, so I mean, we could very easily end up 3-3. That's just my thought. I'm not trying to be adversarial. I'm just stating a fact.
Okay, I guess, tell me more about how you don't think being on both the village board and the library board is a conflict of interest.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
I also just want to interject here too. We've already been in a situation where I really do believe that, trustee Kudo had a conflict of interest and he did not recuse himself from a vote. When we voted whether or not to direct the funds as requested by the village to the investigation that's currently ongoing, he had a vote in that matter. Per our bylaws, that is a conflict of interest. Serving on the village board was a personal conflict, was a personal interest to trustee Kudo, and he did not recuse himself from that vote. So at this point, I am just not confident that serving as the leader of the library board would be appropriate. I think, we can have this conversation again in June. I think that's enough time to, establish the confidence that trustee Kudo would be able to remain impartial in situations like the one we just experienced.
Okay, just a quick question. Can we have the village attorney, like a Nathan Bear, attend and kind of explain? I'd like to know kind of what the responsibilities were, the degree of independence. I feel like I'm kind of guesstimating at it now, and that's not a position any of us want to be in. Because from my time on the board, I remember that we set the library budget. I would think that we'd be sued and not the library itself. And it always, it seemed to be obviously the statutes, John, you're totally right. Statutes attribute some degree of independence, but there's also some degree of, cooperation and I mean, we being an arm of the village, it's the village center, it's the village library. And I am not clear on where that line is. So maybe that's another reason to defer, that we could, find some way to somebody get a little bit more confidence, or for me to kind of understand a little better where those lines are.
that's great, and I look forward to getting to know you a lot better, Wes. I'll just tell you, I have already been working with the village manager's office often and early, and I made it a point to be a partner with the village from the second I heard that I was acting president. So that is a high priority for me. I know you're just taking me at my word for it right now, but that's a very high priority for me. Also, I think cooperation kind of implies 2 entities cooperating, not 1. And this kind of goes back to this village, Shorewood, I think expects the library to be separate and, yes, cooperative with the village, but separate. And an indication that this would not be the first time a village has tried to take over a library. This is actually happens, I've been reading it happens often. And I think,
Not for nothing, John, but this isn't
Hang on, please.
To suggest that the village is trying to take over the library, I think is pretty disingenuous.
All right. In the-
And frankly, I would like to call the question. We have a motion and a second on the floor. So I'll move to call the question.
All right, we can do that. I just said there are villages out there in the world that have tried this before. And if that's the case here, it wouldn't be the first. We have a motion to, okay, so roll count vote. Kara, do you vote to table this vote?
No,
Wes, do you vote to table?
Yes.
Okay, Elvira, do you vote to table the vote?
No,
All right. Eric?
No.
Okay,
Oh, yes, pardon me. Change my vote. Yes.
final answer, you vote to table or not table?
I vote to table.
Okay. And I will vote to not table it. All right. Do I have a, do we want to reopen nominations? Do we want to revote? I'll say, I mean, if it would help, we can open it up to discussion again. Right now, we are on action item number 6, election of officers.
I mean, I guess, Eric, I'd like to hear a response to my initial comment.
Eric, why didn't you recuse yourself from the vote before when you had a clear conflict?
There's no conflict of interest. I am a sitting appointed member of the library board.
And
I have in the village board, I have no personal interest in either of these boards. I'm an elected official and an appointed official. I have no personal interest. I have nothing to gain monetarily or otherwise from these votes. So to suggest that there's a conflict of interest or that I did something inappropriate, I think is a gross misunderstanding of what a conflict of interest is, and further cements my belief that this board needs a new direction. I mean,
That's what we're doing. In a new direction tonight, and I agree with you.
I mean, I think that's a very loose interpretation of conflict of interest from you, Trustee Kudo.
So what exactly would be the conflict of interest? What personal interests do I have?
Your personal interest is your appointment to the village board.
I'm not appointed to the village board. I was elected. I was duly elected by the community.
Your position on the village board. And the village board made the request for the library board to allocate funds to this investigation.
To pay for an investigation that involved the library, certainly. And if I remember correctly, the vote was unanimous from the library board.
It absolutely was. I'm not saying that was the wrong decision to allocate those funds. That was absolutely for me personally, that was, what I wanted to do. That was the correct direction to go. Where I see concern is you're voting on the matter, given you sit on both boards.
Which is absolutely appropriate based on state statutes. So to suggest that there's a conflict of interest because I sit on two boards, just by virtue of being on two boards, I think is inappropriate. By
being on the board that was making the request of the library board, that's the conflict of interest.
So then you would suggest that anything dealing with human resources or payroll or budgeting would require any village board village trustee appointee to recuse themselves from the library board, since HR, payroll, the budget is all a function of the village of Shorewood and not the library? Would that be the position moving forward? I don't think so.
Be to consult, but I do think
This was a
there would
very
be
specific
many-
request.
this was a specific request where I do think it was probably appropriate for you to recuse yourself, and you didn't. And these are just the blurred lines that I don't think we want to deal with, and we don't want the scrutiny on, and it's so easy to not deal with it if we just have anyone besides you as our library board president. But again, but it's just like the blurred lines are apparent.
But John, wouldn't this extend to all votes though, whether president or not? And, you know, again, I go back to, do we need an attorney to sit in on these meetings to kind of to help steer us through some of these questions?
That is actually, I mean, it's agenda item number 14 is library board legal representation. So I do think we need a lot of legal help. Yes.
I mean, I find that odd because the village offered to have attorney participate in this meeting, and you said you didn't want it.
The village offered to have the attorney that's representing the village on this call.
There seems to be this belief that there is no connection between the Shorewood Public Library and the village of Shorewood. That is, they are both completely and 100% autonomous from each other. And I think that type of mentality has led to so many of these problems. If the village has an attorney that they're paying, that they're willing to allow the library board to use just to help them get through a meeting, you know, if we can't share resources and we can't be helpful to each other, then, you know, there are much larger systemic issues here than just, you know, having one attorney at one meeting. I mean, I understand the library board is its own entity. I get that, but, you know, let's not forget that the library board is appointed by the village president, that the library board is approved by the village board. The library board's budget is set by the village. I mean, we are so connected in so many ways in a small community. You know, to try to continue to work every day to separate us, it seems like a waste of energy, as opposed to moving forward and trying to right the wrongs that frankly existed before I or Wesley got here.
Eric, I'm new to the board too. I completely feel the same way that you do. You respect it. There are a lot of things that happened before we got here that need to be fixed. However, I don't think the first thing we do to mend the relationship between the village and the library is appoint a village trustee as president of the library. I think optics wise, that looks like a takeover. I'm not saying that it is, I'm just saying that that's what it could be construed as. I think a better course of action would be to let someone who has been on this board for years, knows the majority of the board very well, what our talents are, what we can give to the board, lead us for the next few months and have this discussion again in June when hopefully things have settled down between the village and the library. That's all I'm proposing.
And in normal circumstances, I would absolutely 100% agree with you. And unfortunately, this is not a normal circumstance. This is as close to an emergency situation as there is in a municipal setting. So when you and I have not, you've been here longer than I have, but not very long. When you say stuff like the interim president would be a better choice for a long-term president, I mean, I think we have to remember that
But
the
it's
interim
not.
president, interim president was here for all of the problems that have existed in the Shorewood Library for the last year, at least. And so it's not as though there hasn't been ample opportunity to address these problems, to put some sunlight on these problems. There has been, it just wasn't taken. And so to continue with, you know, the remnants of the last board, and all of the problems that they had, and assume that there's going to be some new direction, I think is erroneous. And again, I do not subscribe to this notion that there is a conflict of interest between our two boards. I think that I find that we work together in many ways, and so we could probably do this. We could probably do this all night.
Hold on.
We're going to start losing members.
I need to respond to what you said about me. And I think you're right to say, hey, John was here. Why didn't he do something? I'll tell you why, and then you can take it or leave it. But I'm under the impression that when you're on a board, you show up to the board meetings, you read the materials, you prepare the materials, you stay in that lane. You follow stuff. You follow the guidelines, and you follow rules by the book. That's what I was doing. And unfortunately, when people were working outside of the procedures, I wasn't able to catch it. And unfortunately, when, I shouldn't be held responsible for other people's actions. Could I have stepped in and said something? If I would have, it would have been on a complete guess as to what was going on. I didn't have the facts, and I was waiting for facts to come in. I'm still waiting on facts. We have an investigation going on that we're paying for, that I'm eager to see. So for me, I'm very careful with when I'm making a move or saying something, and I'm not going to do it based on rumor or guesses or what one person told me. There are many sides to every story, at least two. And I was making sure that complaints were going through the proper procedures, which is not directly to the board. I was making sure that things were happening. I was trying to make sure things were happening in an orderly manner. And before they came to me and I waited. And when they were not going through the proper channels, other people were making decisions well before I could make a decision. So that's why I moved slowly, and I wasn't as outspoken. I'm still waiting to get the facts, honestly, and I'm hoping that this investigation takes care of that for me, and that we can act as a board strongly and with one voice and start righting the ship, as you said. But that is why in direct answer to you. So I don't know if that's satisfactory or not, but that is why I've been on the board, and you haven't maybe heard from me yet. Well, Kara, Lori, Wes, Elvira, maybe one of our rousing speeches convinced you to vote the other way, and we can move on.
I didn't follow that. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Oh, I just said, has anyone changed their mind? We could do another vote. We don't have to do a vote as long as someone says.
I stand by my vote.
You stand by your vote. Wes, Lori.
As I said, I think both of you are great candidates. I stand by my vote though as well.
Hi, I agree. I think, like I said earlier, I appreciate both of your willingness, but I'm going to stand by my vote as well.
Kara.
Standing by my vote.
Well, I guess we could we open the floor for nominations. Maybe someone else will be nominated. We could try that. We need a motion to reopen for a motion to vote again, or we're just stuck here.
I move to table. And move on to agenda item 9. And continue with you as the interim president.
I guess we're stuck. I'll second that.
All right, we have a move to table, with a second. We can do a roll call vote. Lori
Aye.
moves to table. Kara,
No,
no, does not move to table. Wes
Aye.
moves to table. Elvira
No,
does not move to table. Eric,
Yes.
and I vote no. So,
Problem with having 6 people.
yeah, right, so. Does anyone have any more comment?
I guess I'd like to hear from Lori. You've been on the board pretty much as long as I have. I guess, what are, like, where are you drawing the line?
I think there's benefit, as I mentioned at an earlier meeting, to trying to come together as organizations. I work for another important institution in the village and see a lot of benefit in building partnerships. And I don't think that that needs to be construed as a threat or adversarial. I think, again, I asked the question about the term. I think there is an advantage to having a time frame to say, let's really take a change in direction and be able to focus on putting some things in place so we can hire a new director, so we can address a lot of the personnel concerns, so that we can set something up so that the library staff know that we have a plan in place to help them move forward. So I don't see this as a threat. I don't see this as a takeover. I think my presence could also be, interpreted in that way, in a different way. But I see benefit in trying to come together as a village, and I see this as an opportunity. But this is, I guess that's where I'm coming from. I don't really have any other reason. I really value you and Jonathan. But I do think that given the circumstances, sometimes things get to a place where you need to make kind of a pretty, I don't know, a significant change just for a short period of time so we can all get settled. But that's where I'm coming from. But I don't, again, with all due respect to Jonathan and to you and to Elvira and the other board members, I just see benefit in bringing the village together.
I do too, absolutely. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. And like, as far as supporting library staff, like if you look at agenda item number 13, this is trying to get leadership, develop, and training for library employees. This is my agenda item. We've got item 14 is getting library board legal representation, like Wes mentioned, like trying to get, legal advice more involved in what we're doing and getting library board representation. So I feel like I'm doing the things. I met with the village board several times. We were able to work with GMF, which was much harder than it needed to be to get some money deposited in our board directed reserve fund, which was completing an agenda item from the last 2 times. So I think my phone's been open. I've been very willing to meet with the village and work with the village as a partner. And so I agree, Lori, and I actually think I'm the perfect person to do that. And it's such a win-win because you don't have the optics with me but you do get the results.
And I think that's all true, and I don't want to be like the swing vote here, which is why I moved earlier to table this when we have 7 members. If that's the case, because I also don't want you or Eric to have to be pitching. I would rather us, as the 6 of us who are here tonight, be able to take some action to help move forward and take up this vote again when there are 7 of us.
Okay.
But that's, and again, with so much respect for all of you, I think we're all coming from the same place of really wanting to bring the library to where it needs to be. But I don't want you or Eric to feel like you have to continue pitching something tonight. If we're in a place right now, where this is where we're at, I'd rather keep moving forward and let the full board then make the vote.
Elvira, do you have any comments? Wes, anyone new?
I was
I think-
thinking that maybe I'm kind of reflecting on my process here. There might be a benefit in tabling it this and giving us some time to regroup.
Okay,
And I don't,
Evidently, I don't think we are going to do it tonight.
and obviously I agree with that. And Lori made points, the points I would make, but far more eloquently. So I really have nothing further to add.
all right.
So basically, we're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the same issues and the same concepts. So I think that maybe that should give us the sense that we kind of have overdone it, and we need a little bit of time, as I said before, to regroup.
Sounds like we should get a motion to table. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to table.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
All right, Lori,
Aye.
Kara,
No,
Wes,
Aye.
Elvira,
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
I will vote no. If motion passes 2-4, we are tabled that. I assume we want to table the election of vice president as well. And that's the case? Yeah, we'll table action item number 6. So moving on to I vote motion to table action item number 7.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm an aye. I just couldn't get off the time.
All right. Assistant Director's report. Agenda item number 8.
Okay. I'm gonna just-
John, you may not be able to see it, but on our end, it says that this is going to end in 4 minutes and 39 seconds.
Okay,
Are we going to get kicked off again?
I figured this out.
We probably are, so we can,
we just do what we did
we
last time.
can just end and restart again. So I don't know why we're logged into our Zoom, but I don't know why it's only 40 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you guys knew, in case you couldn't see it.
Do you want to start the agenda item? We'll give you like a 15-second warning.
Yeah, just holler,
Okay.
Dive in and then we'll,
So I just gave some staffing updates. We had a couple of clerks leave, Rosa and Isaac.
Can you give us, just kind of like a roster of like where we're at and what we typically, or like what we,
Yeah.
where we should be at?
So, I have this, which is our chart that we've been looking at. So we don't have a library director.
Sure.
We don't have, well, Lizzie has resigned. Her last day is Friday, so we won't have a virtual engagement librarian. We have my old position, which is still vacant. And then we're short a 10-hour clerk and a 17-hour clerk.
5 positions.
So two clerks, 3 librarians.
2 librarians and the director.
And- Okay, thank you.
But in the meantime, our intern Kayla has taken on additional hours. And is working 30 hours a week, which is really helpful. And we're like looking at options and hopefully get some guidance from the board. For filling that and looking at different options. So we also had, moving on, we had some technology upgrades. You know, that caused some brief power outages or internet outages in the library, but our internet's stronger now. And it's just something that all the Milwaukee County libraries are going through. And then yesterday, the village did not have, they had a major IT upgrade, and our phones were supposed to be down, but we still had intermittent phone service throughout the day. And then I just highlighted some professional development things that have been happening. So Angie attended the WLA conference because it was paid for. And she, we couldn't get a refund on it, so she represented the library there. And then before, like as part of my role, I've been taking this 8-week professional, development opportunity called library management training. And then I am just gonna highlight some programs we have. So Abigail, the new youth services librarian, and I are working on a youth winter reading program with the North Shore Kiwanis. They reached out to us and we're partnering with Whitefish Bay Public Library on that. Next week we have a program, Wellness Over Winter, on November 14th. And our monthly yoga is happening and is well attended. So that's it in a nutshell. But we have less than a minute
Okay.
on this, so if we can end now and then jump back,
Sure.
or does any, yeah, okay.
Good night, everyone.